Namo Namo Durge Sukhakarani, Namo Namo, Namo Namo Ambe Dukaharani, Namo Namo, Namo Namo Durge Sukhakarani, Namo Namo.
Seem like you don't see him a lot when you're at the ashram. You still do have moments where you've said that he'll take you for a walk spontaneously and you'll be able to talk to him, and that's such a huge blessing.
Yeah. Yes, this is true. I mean, well, I think the satsang you're referring to was maybe years ago, 10 years ago. So actually Guruji, you know, this is again just my personal experience, but he's constantly shifting, he's constantly changing. And so, for example, what was possible in my relationship with him in the first couple of years versus now is just a very different thing. So the first early years, he was very much more approachable, and also I had a lot more questions, which gives good satsang material. And now actually he's still around, but I think there's less questions in general, and so there's less questions. But of course, it is absolutely true within the ashram, there's so many opportunities just to see him, and even just to see how he behaves or what he does, or different things that he does. And yeah, the kitchen is definitely one place that I would say he comes fairly frequently, actually. It's nice because I think even in a big ashram, the kitchen is still a kitchen, like at home, still you come to the kitchen, you know?
Yeah.
And so, yeah, it is absolutely such a blessing to have him there. And yeah, the last years, yeah, he's doing his work and I do mine. It's true that it's much more of an inner process, much more of an inner knowing and feeling. And I remember, I don't know, maybe was it 7 or 8 years ago that I took over the kitchen, or 9 years ago, I don't remember how many years ago. That I took over the kitchen, and the first year I felt his presence really strongly, also like guiding me what I should do. And then eventually it stopped. And I remember I asked him once, but Guruji, I don't feel you anymore. I don't feel like I know that you're guiding me to do the right thing. And his answer was quite clear. He said, because you don't need it. Now you know what you have to do. You know what is the thing to do. And so it is, I think, definitely there is this process where he kind of lets you go, like he lets you grow and go to begin to see what you've understood and what you haven't understood, what you still have to work on. So.
Well, and even it sounds like almost an end to the duality, that it's like you and him aren't as separate as you used to think. You know, so he is in you in the kitchen.
Exactly. And I think, and just to be trusting more that he's walking with you, and really to force yourself to have the practice of walking with him throughout the day.
Yeah,
that's something that I really try to force myself to remember that he's with me, which is something that you don't do if he's around all the time, you know? And even if it's, I mean, you know, I think, this isn't maybe nice, but I don't know how many times in the day I say I'm tired to myself. I'll be like, oh my God, I'm so tired. And whenever I say it, I try to imagine that Guruji's next to me and that he's saying like, it's okay. So because I say it like so often, there's so many moments to imagine that Guruji is beside me.
But that's a nice practice for people.
Yeah. I think it is. It really is a nice practice. And it's an important one because he isn't always there and you still have to act. You still have to, knowing that he is with you. Yeah.
Kanikadas, do you want to read out one of those questions? I see some are popping up.
Sure. First question we have is, what about making mistakes during your seva and duty? Did you, and how do you handle that? How is Guruji reacting?
That's a good question. Yes, I make a lot of mistakes. I make a lot of mistakes all the time. So many that I can't even remember all of them. But let's see. And yes, sometimes Guruji also reacts. Actually, yes, sometimes he's definitely reacted. Let's see, I'm trying to think of one. I can't say it was like, okay, so let's see. Some years ago, for example, it was maybe 6-7 years ago. It was Navaratri time, so of course we're busy, and Guruji, he's, as far as how it goes, like how he eats and how it is to cook for him, it's one of those things that, like, once you know what he likes, somehow it works, but at the same time he has very specific tastes. And just to preface this story, even after all of these years, even today, I would never say that I know how to cook for Guruji or what he likes. I have an idea, but it's always somehow changing and shifting, and you can never feel confident in it. Let's put it that way. But it was one Navaratri, and he had but generally Guruji doesn't complain a lot. He's not the type to complain about food. Like, he's really, for the most part, easygoing. But that Navaratri, I was cooking like normal, but we were very busy. We had a lot of prasad to do, a lot of people, blah, blah, blah. And the first night I cooked dinner for him, and I went to bed, which I'm normally in bed by the time he eats, especially in those years, he was eating so late. So he would eat normally midnight, 1 o'clock, something like that in the morning. And around midnight, my phone rings, and it's Guruji. And I pick up the phone, and he's like, yeah, what is this? I hate it. It's disgusting. I don't like it. And I'm like, okay, I'm sorry. I'll try again. Night 2, I cook again, and it's somehow a repeat. He calls again, and he's again upset that the food isn't good. He doesn't like it. Night 3, of Navaratri, I cook again, and he's again unhappy. And by night 4, I'm getting scared to go to bed. I'm like, you know what? I can't go to bed. I know he's going to call again. And he did this for about the first 7 nights. He was just calling constantly to complain about the food. He didn't like it. It wasn't good. Sometimes he wouldn't call. Sometimes he would have one of the people eating with him call me to complain about it, and I was really examining myself. Okay, what's wrong? What's going on with the food? What's wrong? And at the end, nothing had actually changed what I was cooking, but the way I was cooking was different. And I don't know, maybe you guys are going to think I'm crazy, but so the way I was cooking was basically, for a long time I was kind of like, because during the day, you cook for the residents, so breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And then Guruji generally, his evening meal was the one that we would cook extra. And so you're tired from all the day. And basically for me, it was like the kids have run me ragged. And I was really like, the kids, like I always call the residents and the guests, like the kids need this, the kids are hungry, the kids need that. Like for me, it's like having a lot of children, and they always are hungry. They're never satisfied. They always want more. The guests are always needing da, 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 da. And I had started in my mind to be strict with Guruji. I had started in my mind to tell him, like, every time I would start cooking, Yeah, Guruji, honestly, the kids, they required so much, and the day was so long. And honestly, you are God himself. You don't need anything. The kids need, you know what I mean? And somehow inside I was disciplining Guruji, like, you got to get it together. Honestly, like, you don't need anything. And I need to save my energy for the children. Okay, yes, I'm going to cook for you, but you need to be okay with what's happening now. and every day, but I felt it also in a good way. I felt also like it's proper and right to be giving my energy to the community, to the residents, the guests. This is where my focus has to be, because he has everything. That was really my thinking. And so by the 7th night of Guruji complaining, it suddenly hit me like a light bulb, like, no, don't do that. Bhagyashri, you have to think of me first. Always, I have to be the center of everything because I am. And that really also, that God's place can never be put in second place. You can never put him after your duties, which is basically what I was doing. I was basically saying, all of my duties come first. It's important that I do my duties correctly, and you come second. And yes, it came from in my heart, it came from a good place, because really I thought that the residents in the community, they needed me more, in air quotes. And I thought Guruji doesn't have that need. But actually what he was showing was that if you will put me in second place, nothing will flow. Everything will be affected. Nothing is going to work. And so I really consciously, and to this day, I consciously make the effort to put Guruji and God in first place, rather than my duties or the residents or the community. And I think it's something that all of us have a tendency to do in our lives. I mean, it was interesting because as I was thinking about it, my sister was having a similar, and I think especially as housewives, like if my sister, she's married with a family, and I think hearing her have the same struggle, where you put the kids first, you put all of these things first, and everything else comes second. Guruji really, really, literally showed me, I am unhappy. Don't do that. It doesn't work. And so by the 7th night, I understood it's absolutely wrong to put him in second place. He has to be in first place. And then the children will be fed. And then the residents will have, and then the guests will have what they also need, because it's also through his grace that it's possible. So that was one example of, yes, he definitely told me, you're messing up. Don't do this. Yeah.
Well, and I love that statement he made just a while back. And he said, Maya is a Devi, and Maya Devi will beat you over the head with a stick until you turn and face God.
Yeah, absolutely. Everything has to center around him, only him.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Kanakadas, I think I saw another question pop up there.
We have more questions. Where do you get your inspiration for menus? Do you have a cookbook for Guruji?
Where do I get my inspiration? That's a good question. From him. Actually, okay, so to be quite concrete, I love Bon Appetit. It's a great website. Bon Appetit is it's really wonderful videos. And actually, they have a lot of great ideas. So I do use the internet. Like, I do use the internet for when I'm feeling like I need new ideas. And Guruji, I think, is also terribly practical. I remember once I said to him, I just was kvetching. I said, I don't know what to cook. And he was like, well, look in a cookbook. So the internet are wonderful. And do I have a cookbook for Guruji? No. And actually, I was thinking about that. I've been thinking about that for some time, where I thought to myself, Gosh, it might make sense one day to compile a cookbook, and I think devotees would perhaps like. Even in my mind, I mean, I have no idea if it would be possible, but I was even thinking it might be fun to start doing small videos for you guys, to do cooking videos,
Ah,
just some funny stuff. And yeah, let's see. Maybe you guys would enjoy it.
well, I think most people here in the West are so terrified of learning vegan cooking. I think it would be an amazing, like so many people here follow your golden milk recipe like crazy when you put that little, yeah, so I love it. I love that idea.
Yeah, I think it could be fun. Although I have to be honest, whenever I'm teaching how to cook, it never works. Truly. No, I'm being honest. It always is like a complete fail. But that could be also part of the fun. We can just cook together and have a good time. And let's see. That soon.
Okay, there's one more question. Jai Gurudev, you broke your leg and could not work for some time. Did you feel useless? What did this experience taught you?
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
Oh.
When did I break my leg? Was it? Okay, I have to think. 2016. Yeah, so in 2016, for those of you that don't know, I broke my leg 1 week before the festival.
Oh.
Maybe 6 days before the festival. Very big radiator, like one of these heating radiators, fell on my leg, and it was crushed. And I was crushed. I was absolutely crushed. I remember when I broke the leg, I just kept saying again and again, it's not the time. This isn't the time. This isn't the time for this. This isn't the time for this. So I was really unable to process that it had happened right before the festival. And I was convinced that like there was a terrible mistake, which I know that sounds so silly. You would think that like being with Guruji, everything has a meaning. No,
right.
yeah, I was convinced it was a mistake. But at the end, it was a very interesting experience, actually. Guruji had told me a month before I broke my leg, there was one night we had a wedding. There was a wedding, and for this wedding, I didn't sleep that night. So I had done, a full 24 hours or whatever to go ahead and finish their cake and blah, 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 blah. And Guruji, somehow he heard about it, and then he said, Bhagyashri, you need to rest. And I remember he said it, and I don't know, I just was like, I'm okay. And then a month later, I broke my leg before the festival. And I remember Guruji saying to me when I broke the leg, he said, well, I told you needed to rest, and you didn't. So I was like, wow, okay. And he said, Mother Nature took care. She took care of it for you. Then if you're not going to listen, then she will make sure it happens. So yes, having the broken leg for me was a very, very good time, actually. It was a time where, I mean, I'm sometimes I'm sorry to say it because I always feel like, oh my goodness, like this is such a sad fact, but it was a time where I was able to say to myself and to the people around me, I can't do anymore. And I was able to finally say it without feeling bad, I think, because everybody could see, okay, well, her leg is broken. So, we can't ask, if she says she can't do more, she can stop. And so, so it was a very important time for me to learn that there is a time where you have to take care of yourself, and there's a time where you can't do everything, even if you think you can. And I think that lesson of the broken leg has also been something that's kind of carried over into many aspects of my life, of also realizing that it's not enough to rely on yourself. And I think sometimes being a very self-sufficient person can also be a downfall, where I think I always thought I could manage. I always have thought, like, even when Guruji, like, so the festival is too much for me, and yet in my mind I always think, nah, if I have to do it, I can do it. Like, I'm a very, like, whatever has to be done, I will do it. But with a lot of self-reliance, and actually through all of these lessons and through the broken leg, were coming the moments where I could realize, no, I can't rely on myself. No, I'm not doing it. No, it's not possible for me to do it. And to begin to learn the balance between shouldering responsibility and yet allowing God to work through you and giving it. So it's like, I don't know how to explain it. It's like, for me, like this dance of taking the weight upon my shoulders in order to give the weight onto his shoulders. But you have to kind of do both. You can't not take the weight.
Right.
Which I think is a lot of times what spiritual people tend to do. They want to give it directly to God before first accepting it and taking the weight. And for me, it was more like I accept the weight, I take the weight, and I don't want to burden God. And so a lot of time where I didn't feel like I could rely on God, that I didn't want to. Through situations being so difficult, like a broken leg before the festival, it forced me to see who was the actual doer. And so I think that was the lesson of the broken leg. He is the doer.
And also to allow people to help you, right? Like as he says, the ones that serve my devotees are dear to me, right? So you allowed people to do seva for you.
Yes. Yes. I'm so terrible at this. I'm a terrible delegator. I'm not good at it, but I hope to learn. I'm really struggling with that one, to delegate. But yes, it is true to allow yourself to be supported. I think you're a very strong person, and also perhaps don't always know that you can rely on other people, allow them to support you. And I think that's been a huge lesson for me, to allow people to support. Yeah.
Because you see that in Guruji, how, of course, he could take care of everything, but he lets us do it, right?
Yeah, exactly. And I think, that is the great teacher, and also letting people do and also make their mistakes and have their time to learn.
Right.
You know,
those epiphanies that come from failures.
Yeah. And unfortunately, I'm a bit hard-headed. My leg. In order to learn these things, I needed a broken leg. I'm extremely stubborn. Yeah.
Kanikadas, I think I saw another one pop up, did it?
Yeah, there's two still.
Oh, great.
There's a few comments in relation to the food. So when you were talking about this chai video, someone said, yes, I loved it. Somebody else also said, I also would love to have video recipes for cooking.
Okay.
There's a question, what is Guruji's favorite food?
Lentils and lychees.
What was that?
Lentils. So he eats lentils all day, or maybe 5 times a week. Some type of lentils, and he loves lychees.
Lychee nuts, yeah.
But yeah, he loves intense flavors. So if you're gonna cook for him, he likes sour, he likes spicy, salty, like quite salty. He's always reminding me, what did he say last time? I'm not in an old people's home yet. I eat food, like salt my vegetables. I'm like, okay. So he likes very intense flavors.
I can't imagine us putting him in an old folks home.
I know. I know. He's like, I'm not in the folks home yet. Yeah. Give me my salt.
Okay, then there's another question. How are you able to stay so many hours in the kitchen and do your sadhana or puja and study the Bhagavad Gita?
Dun dun dun. Oh, you guys want to know my secrets? Okay, so to be honest, okay, I'm going to be really honest with you guys. I do not do a lot of sadhana or study. It's now with the red, which is also why I was like, Guruji, I don't know if I can be a rishi. How to manage it, or how do I manage it? So I have two rules in my life. Like, God has to be thought about at least once in the morning and once in the evening. And so there is some sort of like formal sadhana in the morning, formal sadhana in the evening, with varying lengths of time. But for me, it has truly been, and I hope, I'm sorry, I haven't said anything yet. I'm speaking in circles now. It's a difficult question. Who was this? Himali. Himali, thank you for this question. No, I think for me, it has really been about, because I've been in the kitchen since I came to the ashram, which I would say that the kitchen is really one of those jobs where you're really generally going from morning to night. And there isn't a lot of time for you, right? So for myself has really been the importance of making a sadhana out of my life and out of my work. And I remember I said this a few months ago to the kitchen team. I said to them, look, we are here too much and too long to not make our work also our sadhana. So if you're not making it a spiritual practice, there's going to be a problem, because you're not going to have the time to do everything. And so I personally don't really feel a lack of time for God, as far as I try to make that time throughout the entire day. And that it really is purposeful, as far as I am in the kitchen, but why am I in the kitchen? To serve Guruji, to serve God. Why am I serving the residents? Because it's my dharma, because I love them. And it really has to be this practice of walking with God on a constant daily basis. Otherwise, it would be problematic. And I think it also depends also on the person. I'm not a person who has a lot of compartments to my life. And so, like, for example, even becoming Rishi for me was like, it was really somehow like just one more thing on my to-do list, you know, and you try your best to do it, however that is. But I try not to make these compartments around like, now I'm doing my seva time. Now I'm doing Bhagavad Gita. Now I have to go give satsang. Now I'm on the Zoom call, and to make these compartments. No, I try, not even try, but it is just a continuation of a life of service. And so you don't really have, at least for myself, I don't experience a lot of conflicts of, I don't have enough time for that. It's simply about doing what the day calls for, whatever that is. And I think when you actively seek to give your life to God or to Guruji, it becomes seamless. It really becomes seamless, where there really isn't a difference between, okay, today I had the time to sit and read the Gita, versus yesterday I didn't have the time, and so I didn't do it, versus being on the Zoom call or whatever. It all is just his time. And I remember I was speaking with a resident the other day, and it's not to say that I don't ever take time for myself. I do, or like when I need a nap, for example. I think, especially doing events, there'll be a time where I'm like, you know what, I'm reaching that point in the day that I know that if I don't take 20 minutes to reset, just to close my eyes, something's going to happen. But very often, like when I do take time for myself, it does feel like sanctioned and blessed by Guruji, but at the same time, it also feels like time, a little bit of time that I've stolen from him. And so I'm laying in my bed and I feel in peace. Don't get me wrong. I feel in peace that I need to rest or I need to sleep, but it's time that I've taken back for myself in order to go back into my service. And so the answer is really, I don't make a distinction between if I had time for the Gita today or if I didn't. It all kind of runs into one. And I do know when I have the feeling that I could give more. Whenever I have the feeling that I could give more or I've withheld something from myself, those are the times when I say to myself, okay, what more can you add into the day now? Is it Gita studying? Is it more Kriya? Is it now doing a puja? Otherwise, I leave myself in peace. Does that answer the question?
I think so.
But it is a challenge, to be quite concrete. It is absolutely a challenge. And I think outside, it is a very real challenge to have enough time to do everything. And I think be graceful with yourself. Be graceful with yourself. And that is also very important. So. Yeah.
Is that all the questions there?
That's it.
Kanika?
No more questions.
Now, we don't want to keep you past your bedtime. How are you feeling?
I'm okay. However you're feeling, I'm okay. I'm good.
Oh, okay. So another question just popped up here. Can you read that one?
Yes, it's more like a comment.
Okay.
The comment is, observing you working in kitchen was for me like feeling the Divine Mother is in you.
Oh, thank you. That's very sweet. It's very sweet. I think, I don't know if she is, but I definitely say that kitchen, I think every kitchen is truly, it is truly the work of the Divine Mother. It really is Annapurna there. And so I can imagine that her presence can be felt. And just a quick story, I will share a quick story about Annapurna. It was where Guruji really, it was so beautiful to see the role of the mother and to see how he sees her to a certain extent. He came one day to cook in the kitchen and he decided to cook a feast. I don't remember what the day was, but he wanted to cook. He cooked, I think we cooked at least 6 different dishes. We cooked 6 different dishes.
Oh, wow.
With, a small starter and a salad and this and that and this curry and that curry. And we had made a full meal. And so he prepared the Krishna plate or the puja plate to take to the temple to offer to the deities. Then he went upstairs. He said, go feed the residents. So we went and fed the residents. Then he even took food already for himself and the people eating up. And he was just about to leave and we were going to wash the pots. And he said, oh, wait, Annapurna. And he comes to this big pot and he starts scraping the bottom of the burnt rice. So the rice, when you cook a lot of rice, on the bottom is always this, it's almost burnt. It's just before burnt. And so it's really the bottom of the rice. He's scraping it with like a spatula to get it off. And he says, bring me a bowl. So I bring him a bowl and he says, okay, perfect. Now go offer it to Annapurna. And it was so beautiful and so symbolic that really the mother is really the last one to eat, the last one to be fed. Mm-hmm. She's the last one to be thought of. Even she doesn't need your thoughts. And it was one of those moments where I said to myself, wow, that's the way to serve, where everything else and everyone else is fed and has what they need from God all the way down. And the mother's really the last one. She'll take whatever's left over, And so, her kitchen and she's always giving. Yeah.
Well, I am just so delighted that you could join us. This was lovely.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. It was very nice. And I like it's so informal and easygoing.
Yes.
And
Well,
thank
and
you to all the
you-
people who wrote and came.
It's a great crowd that shows up. They really are
Yeah,
lovely.
It's nice. Very nice.
Now, and just so you know, because I know you think that you just put red on and that's all that happened. But the change in your satsangs is profound. Like I remember the first one you did and your voice was shaking and you were so nervous and you kept apologizing. But there's a real depth that's landing in you. So even with, you might not be aware, but there's a real energy landing in you. And your satsangs are becoming more and more profound and deep. And I know everyone's enjoying them. So
Oh,
you're doing a great job.
Thank you, Swamini. Thank you. Thank you. And thank you for having me. Thank you very much.
Oh, it's delightful. I know. And just so you all know, it wasn't easy to schedule her. We've been trying for months.
Yeah, it's true. It's true.
Like, okay, Guruji's away. Okay, maybe we can squeeze it in here.
Exactly.
So thank you so much. So
Thank you.
we'll just end with an Om Shanti, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Shri Guru Namaha Hari Om.